When most people think about aging, they don't usually think about their liver. They picture instead wrinkles spreading across their face, joints becoming stiff and painful, their memory starting to fade, or even maybe their heart gradually becoming weaker. Yet, this organ, sitting quietly beneath your ribs, is controlling the fundamental processes that determine whether your body stays metabolically young or slides towards chronic disease. Because aging isn't just the passage of time, it's the accumulation of metabolic damage. And your liver is ground zero for where that damage either gets controlled or spirals out of control. My name's Dr. Alex, and over the last decade in emergency medicine, I've seen the endpoint of metabolic disease more times than I can count. Heart attacks, strokes, diabetes complications, kidney failure. And when you trace these conditions backward, looking for the common thread that connects them all, you consistently end up at the same place. Metabolic dysfunction that started years, even decades earlier. The liver is central to it all, but it's the organ that most people know the least about when it comes to longevity. So let's start with what your liver actually does, because most people's understanding stops at it processes alcohol or it detoxes your body. Now, those functions are real to a degree, but they barely scratch the surface of how critical this organ is to your metabolic health. Your liver is essentially the metabolic traffic controller for your entire body, making moment-to-moment decisions about what happens with every nutrient that enters your bloodstream. Between meals, when you're not eating, your liver regulates blood sugar by releasing stored glucose to keep your brain and other organs functioning. It processes and stores vitamins and minerals, releasing them as needed. It clears used hormones from your bloodstream, things like estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, preventing them from accumulating to problematic levels. It also produces bile, which is essential for digesting and absorbing fats. And yes, it also breaks down toxins and inflammatory byproducts that would otherwise damage your tissues. Every single major longevity pathway in your body runs through the liver in some way. When your liver is functioning normally, it makes intelligent decisions about how to handle incoming nutrients and maintain metabolic balance. But when your liver becomes dysfunctional, these decisions become biased and inflexible. And that's when the aging process accelerates dramatically. So after you eat a meal, nutrients flood into your bloodstream. Things like glucose from carbohydrates, amino acids from protein, fatty acids from fats. The first major processing station that these nutrients encounter is your liver. And your liver faces a fundamental decision about each type of nutrient. Should it burn this for immediate energy? Should it store it for later use? Should it convert it into something else or package it up and export it to other tissues? When your liver is healthy and metabolically flexible, it makes these decisions dynamically based on your body's current needs and energy states. If you've just exercised, it might direct nutrients towards muscle repair. If your glycogen stores are depleted, it might prioritize refilling those. If you're in a calorie deficit, it might favor burning fat for energy. The system is meant to be responsive and adaptive. But when your liver becomes metabolically compromised, these decisions become rigid and dysfunctional. The liver starts defaulting towards storage and fat creation, regardless of whether your body actually needs more stored energy. It becomes biased towards producing and exporting fat, even when you're already carrying excess body fat. And this metabolic inflexibility, this loss of appropriate decision-making, is one of the core drivers of biological aging. The central switch that flips your liver from metabolically healthy to metabolically dysfunctional is actually the accumulation of fat inside your liver cells. This condition, called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, has become shockingly common. The current estimates suggest that roughly 25 to 30% of adults in developed countries have it, though many don't know it because they've never been tested and don't have any symptoms of it. The critical thing to understand is that fatty liver isn't a benign cosmetic issue like having extra fat beneath your skin. It's an active metabolic disease that fundamentally changes how your liver functions. And it often develops even when standard liver enzymes measured in normal blood tests appear normal, which means that you can have significant liver dysfunction without any obvious warning signs. When fat accumulates in liver cells, it doesn't just sit there passively. It interferes with the cellular machinery that responds to insulin. Insulin, as you know, is the hormone that signals your liver to stop producing glucose and start storing nutrients instead. But when liver cells are packed with fat, they become insulin resistant. They stop responding properly to insulin signals. So even when insulin levels are high, even when blood sugar is already elevated, the liver keeps churning out more glucose into the bloodstream as if you were in a fasted state. Your pancreas detects this rising blood sugar and responds by releasing even more insulin, trying to force the liver and other tissues to respond. What happens is that it creates a state of chronic hyperinsulinemia, constantly elevated insulin levels, which is the metabolic starting point for a cascade of aging processes. This is where type 2 diabetes begins. This is where atherosclerosis accelerates. This is where visceral fat starts accumulating around your organs. It's where blood pressure starts creeping up. All of these aren't separate age-related diseases. They're downstream consequences of the same upstream metabolic dysfunction centered in your liver. Once you have chronically elevated insulin and glucose circulating in your bloodstream, the damage becomes systemic, meaning it spreads around the entire body. High blood sugar causes glycation, which is a process where glucose molecules randomly attach to proteins throughout your body, producing